Welcome. We're going to allow a couple of seconds to let our participants in today. Welcome. My name is Noemi Guevara, and it's my pleasure as a Director of Alumni Engagement to welcome you to this edition of our 49er Industry Chat. Before we start our session, I would like to inform you that this is being recorded and it will be available on demand on our website at www.csuob.edu/alumni. We also encourage you to use our Q&A box located below to submit any questions for our guest speaker today. And now I would like to introduce our moderator for the chat, Lucia Cos. She earned her degree in Spanish in 1975. She was recognized as a distinguished alumna for the College of Liberal Arts in 2005. She currently serves as the chair of the alumni networks in the CSUB Alumni Council. Lucia, thank you for moderating the chat today. And now I pass it on to you.
Great, happy to be here. During the past 34 years, Gary Bronson has worked in 5 different industries, participating in 10 major mergers, acquisitions. He served as an officer in 2 Fortune 100 companies, outsourced, insourced, and college-sourced IT services, and more. Most recently, Gary served as VP of Global IT Operations for FedEx. He currently provides consulting related to all aspects of IT management and supply chain services. Gary earned his bachelor's degree in finance from Long Beach State. Joining us today from Tennessee, please welcome Mr. Gary Bronson.
Thank you very much, Lucia. It's a privilege to be here. And actually, you picked up, you majored Spanish, so this is the only Spanish I have is Tengan una buena semana.
Close enough.
Okay, good. Actually, I'm half Cuban. I should speak Spanish, but I don't. So
that's okay.
Well, let me just give a quick overview maybe of my career leaving Cal State Long Beach. First off, love Long Beach. I grew up in Southern Cal, Pasadena area. In my senior year, actually, I wanted to get a Christmas, New Year's, during that time, that break, I wanted to get a computer job, and I got a typewriter job, typing. And so that's kind of where I started. It was in a company with title insurance. I had no idea what title insurance was, but then learned it's part of the real estate. So long story short, in that one, I ended up spending 10 years in that industry. There was a couple acquisitions. I was actually elevated to VP inside of 3 years of my first job. And so I was someone that could solve business problems using technology. And so although I was a business finance major, I also spent a lot of time in the new business computer lab where they brought PCs. That tells you how old I am. That's when I started. They brought PCs in new. And so I learned how to program and do stuff, manage data, et cetera. And so as I went into the title insurance industry, that's what I was doing. There was so many manual procedures and calculating how people pay off their loans, et cetera. So elevated quickly, was an officer in that industry. And I remember talking to someone, and I was right in that 10th year. They said, yes, but Gary, you're just a big fish in a little pond. The title industry is nothing, real estate. You got to get into some bigger companies, bigger corporations. And that's when I left, and that's when I went into the telco, Pac Bell. I went to work for Pac Bell. So my major merger acquisitions occurred during that time as telcos, as we bought Ameritech out of Chicago, also bought Southern New England Telephone. And that's where I learned the skills of adapting to change, really being team focused. Don't get all hung up on what you run right now because it's going to be different after the merger, all those kinds of things. So anyway, I loved it in the telco environment, but then we had this feel of wanting to move to some place where it's more family oriented. And I got an opportunity to go work for a company in Boise, Idaho. And I would have never thought our family would ever move to Idaho, but we did, and we loved it. We were there for 12 years. And while I was there, I worked for Washington Group International, which was more in the engineering, architecture, construction industry. And then after being there for about 4 or 5 years, I then switched and went over to Albertsons. That's where Albertsons was headquartered. SuperValue then bought Albertsons, and SuperValue was headquartered in Minneapolis. So that was my tie to Minnesota. I started commuting there, and of course made the mistake of taking my wife to a business party, company party in January, and it was minus 23 degrees regular, a little bit of wind chill, took it to minus 70. She said, I don't care what, you're not going to stay, we're not moving here. And I was a group vice president over SuperValue. They were about a $40 billion company. So after SuperValue, I thought I'd been through, at that time, quite a few different mergers, acquisitions, at that time, 4 different industries. I'm just going to start my consulting practice. And that's what I started to do. And then FedEx called. And that was an opportunity you just couldn't pass up. So I figured, okay, one more corporate IT gig. So I moved to Memphis area here where FedEx is headquartered. And literally this company, FedEx, is, I mean, it's a commercial airline, it's a trucking company, it's a retail company, logistics, you name it. And I ran all global IT operations, had over 1,000, 800 some odd employees, plus another 400 contractors that I oversaw. Very large operation. So, usually that's kind of a burnout job in about 2 or 3 years, 3 or 4. I did it for 7.5. Loved what I did. Great people. Finished that off, took a buyout, and now I've been doing consulting. I've been doing some work with St. Jude. I just finished that up, and we're working our way now back west. So if you look at my resume, you look at all these, VP IT jobs. I basically was in IT management. The last decade, 15 years, was more zeroed in on infrastructure. I think the complexity in infrastructure has grown so much, that's the harder here. Here, you go handle that. And I think that's really what I've enjoyed, solving business problems. And that's kind of what led me from one industry to the other. And I did have that hypothesis that if you can adapt, you can really learn business process wherever you go and take your skills with you. You can adapt quickly, you can be successful. And that's really what I was out to prove out, and enjoyed doing it. And I learned a lot. And I will go back to my Long Beach State days. What I learned is you learn how to learn. That's what college is about. And learning what's expected of you for the different professors and how to excel teaches you skills. Those skills are very portable. So really enjoyed that. There's my quick overview of my industries I've worked in.
Okay. So Gary, you brought up Cal State Long Beach, and what do you think some of the most valuable skills you brought from what you learned on campus to the work?
Early on, and it's been so long, I can't give any professors credit by name, so forget that.
Oh, no.
But I will say something early that was taught, and I was Boy Scouts when I was a kid, but you learn to be prepared. Okay, but a definition I remember I think it was one of my finance classes, it was everybody looks and defines people as lucky. What is lucky? And we, dove into luck. There is no real just luck. Luck is just a label, and it's a label for a huge amount of preparation that intersects with opportunities. There'll always be opportunities, but if you're not prepared, you don't get them. And people will say, I'm unlucky. They'll look at someone else and say, oh, they're very lucky. No, it's really just preparation and opportunities. They come together, they'll be there. And this thing with FedEx, that's a good example of that, because why? FedEx doesn't hire officers from outside. They hire from within, bring people up the ranks. I think they've hired 10 officers in 40 some odd years from outside, and most don't make it because of the culture fit. So, I heard plenty of that as I walked in the doors. You're going to fail, don't bother, can't try. But back to my college days of, hey, you learn to be ambitious, you work hard, apply, be willing to adapt. Everybody's smart, everybody brings skills to the table. Great. But other people, you got to respect other people, and you play team ball. And I, learned all that back in my college days.
So what was mentoring is always a key component as well, and networking. So how did that start off on campus and move on into the real world?
Yeah, one of my early management classes, I think, we talked about mentoring, and there's a formality about it, and I remember not listening at all because you know it's just another one of those things. I might have been drawing pictures. I don't remember. When I got my first promotion, like big promotion, and I'm a VP, and I've been out of college, I think 3 years, 2 years, three. I mean, just nothing. And I reported for a week to the CFO because IT was under the CFO. And the CEO, after meeting with him and talking, he said, "Okay, I want you to report to me now." And just like that, I'm now reporting to the CEO, and I go to those staff meetings with the CFO and with others. Um, and so early on, he put me under his wing and taught me about the benefits of mentoring because he was doing it with me at that time. Traditionally, they'll tell you at big corporations, grab someone outside of your reporting structure. So here you come in, you got somebody that you report to, they report to someone, they report to someone. Go outside of that. Go to your boss's peer and go hook into that horizontal and get them to be your mentor. And there's a way to ask them to do that. And then you always want to be courteous of their time. And you learn, you bring to them a scenario that you've already worked out and that you've decided this is how you'll approach it. And now you want their feedback. And that's usually the most beneficial mentoring sessions you have. So I started that early and carried it through.
But they need to know you or know of you, or because you can't, you got to be careful because there's a lot of politics with the people you're going over, right?
Yeah, there's an art. Let's call it an art more
Go.
than a science.
Okay.
The science of it is, like I said, you go outside your reporting structure. You go over here, you go up a couple levels because that's the level that's going to be sitting in the panel interview when you go for a promotion. So you want to go up 2 or 3 levels, right? That's the science. But the real art of it is, to your point, you need to have connections, okay? And I will tell you, when I graduated in 87 out of Long Beach State, everybody talks about the Ivy League schools. Everybody talks about all these other ones. And I'm coming out of a state school. You're not going to have the opportunities everyone else has. You're not going to have the connections. You're not going to, and that's all you heard. And I just didn't listen to it. And what I learned quickly is it really is about your attitude. And as you come in, if you really want to be a team player, which the old Zig Ziglar, which probably nobody on here even knows who that is, except for you and I, you get what you want when you help enough other people get what they want. That's team ball, right? We all work together. We know our roles. We do that, but we also reach out and help. And you take that attitude in. When you take that, that's your genuine need of why you want to go talk to someone. And they will recognize that because they work for the same company. When they see that your real intention is to be a better employee, to make the company better, more people will open that door for you. But you do have to respect their time, and there is absolutely nothing wrong. As an officer, I actually allocated 10% of my calendar for people calling me to get on my calendar for me to mentor them, right? And that's what you always open yourself up to do. And I would get calls from people I didn't even know. They weren't even in IT. They were outside the group because of a few other things I did. Always willing to do it. So people are out there willing to do it, but you do have to know how to approach them properly. And the objective has to be, it can't just be a selfish inward thing that help me get promoted. Nobody wants to waste their time talking to someone that just says that. It's really about help me develop myself so I can be more of a contribution to this company.
Right. Now, were you headhunted for all those very different jobs and industries? What do you think was your selling point for being tapped and encouraged to apply?
So formal headhunters, yes, few of those, more the later. Earlier, like my first job out of Long Beach State was a title insurance company, Continental Lawyers Title. And because no one told me differently, I did all kinds of stuff to solve business problems. And one of those things I did is, this is back before you had Salesforce.com. So I built a little, tool manager of customers that we could give to realtors for free. And it because title insurance, we give them the data of who lives where, and then they do their little mail merge process. So I had a little tool that they could create letters, mail merge electronically, and print out their letters and send them all out. Really cool. And before that, they were doing it on typewriters. So this was like an advance in technology. I had done that. Well, the vice president of sales, when he left our company, went to work for another company. That was really my first recruiting experience. And who was it? Well, it was a sales guy, because I got 2 sales awards 2 years in a row, because the market share we took in doing that little program for the next couple of years was huge. So they invited me, the VP of IT, to the sales meeting to get my award. So that's my first recruiting. He called me and said, "Hey, I want you to come talk to the CEO over here. He'd like to have you come aboard." And of course, his opening, it was very interesting. But that was my first recruiting experience. That after that one, it's interesting. People start to see what you accomplish, and they just want you to come do it over here. And that's kind of how it started. So I got pulled more than I got pushed.
So how do you prepare to switch industries? What steps do you take to make it a successful transition?
Rule number 1 is you just, everything in your past becomes a skill in your pocket, but you don't wear it on the label. So when I walk into that new environment, it's all about absorbing and learning about the culture, the heritage of that company that I now work for. And the biggest mistake you can ever make is, well, the way I did it over here at that company, I was at Pac Bell and we really knew how to do this, and this is what that would kill you. So really I dive in to learn the culture, really learn the business processes, understand what the vision, the objective, everybody got a strategic plan, read it. Most people don't read the company's strategic plan. So I would really go and learn about what the business is trying to do. Then I would bring that to my world of whatever I am managing and really reinforce the culture of the company and try to eliminate any subcultures that got created, right? But that was my secret sauce of like mergers and acquisitions. The way those things happen at big levels, there's 2 people you're partnered with. You did this function and had your staff. They did the same function and had their staff. The company comes together. Guess what? Only one of you will have the job going forward. But you both need to work together. The teams need to come together. So I learned early, I didn't get all hung up on whether it was me or the other person. I'm like, let's work together. Let's make this transition smooth. Let's get to the right decisions as quickly as possible. I just always had that mentality. And sometimes I got the bigger group and more responsibility. It always worked out. But when you come into the table and try to do you versus me, our way's better than your way, that mentality doesn't work. It's all about playing team ball. And the more you are confident about your own abilities and skills, you then don't have all those insecurities that drive bad behavior.
That's good. Now, Gary, you made a really key point that's good for some of the students and some of the very young alum that are listening in. And I work for a big company too. And when I was interviewing, I was always surprised that they hadn't looked anything up about the company and the strategic plan. And mind you, back when we started, maybe me, I'm the 70s, we didn't have computers. So you had to kind of figure it out. But can you talk to them very specifically how important that is to set yourself apart from other people being interviewed?
Yeah, I'll give you, let me use my FedEx, because really everybody that I'm sure is on here you want to work for the big, great, FedEx is an incredible company. I mean, how they can deliver at a certain time anywhere in the world. I mean, it works. It's incredible. A lot of great people. And it starts with the CEO, Fred Smith. So when I went to interview, I did my research. I read their financials. I went back a few years. I read, there's a book called FedEx Delivers. I mean, I didn't get a chance to read it all, but I read enough of it to understand Fred Smith's, key objectives and how he was going to approach running that business. So when I went into interview, I mean, they just peppered me with, in fact, I'll tell you, it was multiple gates, but the final one was 9 executives, 9. That was the biggest panel interview I've ever had. So to try to keep all 9, and they would just hit me with questions and go through, but I was I was prepared. I knew enough about FedEx that I had questions for them. And then it's always easy to talk about your background. The only thing that you had to really do is something you learned, always talk most recent, relevant to what applies. Sometimes your past doesn't really apply to the new job. It's okay. What you then have to do is help them understand how you can apply what you've done or learned and how you'll be successful in the new role. Don't let them guess about it. You define it based on your knowledge of the job, what they need you to do, what the business problems are. So FedEx, boy, I had a lot of questions related to their international growth and things that weren't right, or it didn't seem right, the numbers don't add up in certain things. So I asked a lot of questions on that. Tell me why this is. There was a lot of technology stuff that it was advertised certain things about their data centers and cloud. And I'm like, I'm all over cloud. Great. That's, so tell me, how many apps do you have running in your private cloud? How many minutes, So it was really interesting to get to a lot of these things real quick to understand why they're really bringing me in, right? And usually you don't get that till later. So no, I'm big on, prepare yourself. In fact, a lot of internal interviews, people fail miserably because they're even more secluded in the environment. So they don't do enough research because they figure they're already here. They know enough about the job. That's all the discussion. And then they get hit with this other stuff and they don't know enough about what FedEx Freight's objectives or FedEx Express or FedEx Office or FedEx Ground, et cetera.
So you made another big key point here, whether you're just starting out or in the business or changing businesses, is do your research and also find out what the challenges are and what skills you have, right? Has that been kind of it? How has that helped you?
Yeah, because my job is managing technology, is what people will say. That's never my job. My job is leading people. You manage things, you lead people. But a company, technology is never the core of that company unless you're a manufacturer of technology. So whatever that business is, solving business problems means you really have to understand what that issue is and then what's available in current technology. You understand how to, you architect, you plan things better, you interact more. And there was a time in my industry of not the industry of the companies I work, but IT and technology, where there was arrogance. We call it a black box. You can't see through. You don't get to know what we're doing. Hey, it's too complex. You'll never understand. So just trust me. And that's actually what I walked into when I left Cal State Long Beach, is here I go to this company. I did a few things real quick, which brought some notice to me. And all of a sudden, CEO, president, they come talk to me. They immediately trusted me because I was a business finance major. And they were so happy that I understood this IT stuff because they don't. And they're tired of being told, trust me. And they put me in charge, right? That's my long story short. Right?
Yeah.
So trust is a key element, and you have to earn that trust. And you earn that trust by your confidence in your own skills, willing to say what you don't know. Don't be afraid of that. No one's expected to know everything. So I just, that trust, the openness, hard work, focus on team ball. Those are the characteristics that you don't even realize sometimes that you're being watched when you are being watched, and they're making decisions while you are doing something. And that's why I think it's always important. Be yourself and be willing to help other people be successful. Things work out for you.
Right. Now, we know from, I know from what your bio that you've been involved in mergers and acquisitions. So another question that came in is, how do you make yourself valuable during a merger to ensure you still have a job under the new leadership?
That is a great question. So I will speak to, I've been 100% successful every time. Every time I go through one, I always end up with more responsibility after. And I will tell you that you can't let fear drive your actions. Fear will take the best of us and make us show our worst self. So number one, be all in. It's always about the company. You got to understand, you're working for a company, it's about the company. So when a merger happens, you know that it's all about synergy. We're going to be able to bring these things together and cut all this out. And cut all this out, yes, means jobs. But usually there's shifting of people, there's other things that happen. So to the question, how do I make sure I'm not one of the ones that end up on the curb, right? Well, yes, there's no guarantees ever, but I would say don't, be all in. Listen, pay attention. For example, know who's buying who. I went into one company and my organization, I kept hearing these things. And literally, I would have thought that what they were talking about in this merger happened maybe a year or two ago. So I go check it out again because I could have sworn when I was doing preliminary research, that was a long time ago. Well, yeah, it was 10 years ago. And these people are still talking to me like it was yesterday. So that within that first week, I just put a mandate. If you can't let that go, I respect that. Go work somewhere else, because our culture, our environment is about this new company here. And this new company is now a little bit older, but your company doesn't exist anymore. This company bought your company, nothing personal. So join, and so sometimes you just have to let go. If you've been working somewhere 20 years, 10 years, and this other company buys you, it's important to pay attention to who's in charge and what's going to be the culture. The more successful buyouts, the cultures are similar. So easy to adapt. But there are a lot that are totally different. You got to pay attention to who's making decisions, and you got to be willing to adapt and change. If you're not willing to adapt and change, you might as well go look for another job now and do it on your timetable versus theirs, because you won't survive.
I just have a little comment from someone. They're saying Zig Ziglar on point.
Hey, good.
Hey,
He's got his son and family. They're still going. They're taking it on. I love Zig Ziglar. Yeah.
Right. Now, there's another question. What does college sourced mean?
Glad you brought it up. So I've done a lot of outsourcing with companies that, they want to get other companies involved in doing this work. I've done it in all kinds of scale. I've set up a captive center, which is a company, your own department or own entity in India, and you hire people there. I've done it with other vendors, okay? So at FedEx, they didn't do outsourcing. They had a lot of contractors. I come in the door, they say, don't worry, Gary, we're not going to do that. That's not why we want you here. We realize you've done that in the past. We are not going to do that. Within 6 months, they offer a buyout, and we're going to lose 20% of our people, and we're not going to replace them, but we're going to use outsourced services to do it. And we need you to help us do it and be successful. And the clock starts, and we got like 9 months to set this up. So anyway, so I got basically all that working. 3 years in, it was so successful. Headquarters is in Memphis. University of Memphis is right here. I went over there and basically talked to the president of the university and some other people over some other department and said, listen, this could work. Let me tell you what we got to do. You have the right environment here to have a successful business. It cannot be run under your educating arm, and it can't be run in your IT. You have to set up a separate subsidiary, run it outside that loop, but yet employ all your students. And so long story short, it took about 2 months to get them all set up right. So I got them, organized. We set it up, we structured it. And I basically brought about, a couple hundred jobs into this entity. In fact, it's UMRF, University of Memphis Research Foundation. You can look it up and go read about them. Over 400 kids have gone through that program, but they literally supply services. They do help desk level 1 and level 2. They do system analytic work. They also do some security work. They have had so many people leave that and go get real jobs. So graduate from college, leave that entity and go get a managing job of these services, because now they already have that experience. It's real world experience. They deliver services to FedEx, and they do it as well, if not better, than the other companies that do it for a living, right? That's what college sourcing. And so they won a national award. They were called to Washington, D.C. to come explain how the heck they did this and what they're doing. And so anyway, it was a really great thing. So I just had lunch with the president of that entity that just retired. They just replaced him, but it's been up and running. Over 400 kids have gone through the program. It's great.
Have you had the same conversation with our president?
I was going, actually, that was my original dialogue. I was going to, but I just never got the opportunity to talk about it. It's something I was told by a lot of people. You need to just go set all the universities could be real relevant and they could do this. And why don't you go show everybody? I'm like, okay, I still have wife and I got kids and we got family, and well, now everybody's out of the house. And so, but it won't be successful everywhere. It would be successful at a Long Beach State, the same way it was successful at the University of Memphis. It's not going to be successful at Stanford. It's not going to be successful ever. Yeah, why? You need people that go to that school that are hungry, that really have to work hard for what they get. And they got to be willing to work hard, and they're ambitious. And we had all those elements along with a few others. It could work at Long Beach State. It could, truly.
I hope you get the word in.
Go check it out, umrf.com.
Yeah. Now you mentioned something about your family, and another question had been, how have you been able to, that's always an issue, the work-life balance with your time commitments?
That is always hard. Quality of life, it's quite, in fact, with COVID, with people working remote, everybody's learned more about what's possible, what's not possible. Interacting, I'm very comfortable interacting with all of you right here, but this isn't really interacting, right? It's so much different when you're in person. But there are some jobs and some things that can be done virtually. Not everything can be done virtually. So you really got to get good at, as a leader, delegating, empowering people. That's what brings you as an individual quality of life. Playing team ball, that gives you quality of life. People cover for each other. When you're an individualist, when you're power hungry, you're 100%, you got no time for family. And that's part of the problem with people going down that path, but they choose that. I myself, I've been successful. I have a wonderful wife that supports me. Our kids, I take vacation. I always use my vacation. If anything, I use more than my vacation. I feel that's important. You come back refreshed. So anybody that works for me, I make them take vacation, whether they like it or not. Why? Because I know it does for me. It refreshes me. So there's a long list of things you have to do to have that work-life balance. But the key is work. You got to be willing to work, and you got to put in your time, and you got to establish yourself, and you got to get that benefit to the company. Too many people start their opening line at that first panel interview. Okay, first let's talk about my work-life balance. Okay, you're in an interview. You haven't even got the job yet, and you're going to start there. You're going to move right to the bottom of the pile, right? And it's usually on everybody's list of values. We want our people to have a strong life. Yeah. Well, when you got an outage or you got something, it's all hands on deck. Don't talk to me about that right now. You're going to leave your barbecue and you're going to come help, right? But when that's what gets everybody the sense of urgency to make it run smooth, so we don't have to get called out at night.
Gary, we have so many questions. So I'm going to
sorry.
No.
I'm not answering any of them.
You're doing great. Maybe we can bring you back. How do you measure success? What are some of the key goals that you held on to throughout your career?
That's a great question. We are groomed, whether it's because we get grades, we go into the corporate world or company, it's dollars, it's how much you make. And you'll find out of the gate. I remember my senior year, everybody was talking about, well, what's your starting salary? Well, mine's this, and I laugh now that we look back and, it was a big deal over a few thousand difference. and I'm going to say this, I'm sitting here, people listening, oh, no, it's not. It's just because you're sitting there. No, it's not about the money. Okay. Money cannot be your measurement of success, because if you chase that for 30 years, you'll finish and you won't have joy and satisfaction. Okay. Just telling you that.
Thank you,
Yes,
Gary.
you need money. Yes, you should get paid for what you do. Yes, you should, but don't make that the measurement of who you are. So when we say what is success, you do need to define it. There's a lot of great books. Everybody's got their thing. I'm saying for me, I get great joy and satisfaction from watching people that work for me get promoted. Watching how I can take a hard group or organization that's dysfunctional, and in a few years be able to walk away, nobody needs me. That's my measurement of success. That means I built a team that really works, it functions, and now one of them could step up and take my place, and I can move on and do something else. The other balance too is my kids, family, because you can't just, if you don't have success at home, I don't care what you do in the workplace, you're going to be miserable. So both of those got to be in check, because life's too short. Your kids grow up. You're going to miss all the fun soccer games and all the baseball games if you're working 80 hours a week just to get to where you want to be in 20 years. So success to me, each person needs to define that, but I would recommend, just like you call, define it at the beginning. Give yourself some checkpoints, update what you feel success is. In fact, there is a great early, here, let's see if we can. Okay, Clayton Christensen. He was over at Harvard, a professor at Harvard, great guy. That's exactly that book. How will you measure your life? Insight, everybody's got insights. I think it's worth just thinking about it. What's important to you? And it's different for all of us. I'm very faith-based. That's important. How do I get my energy? Where do I go when I'm down and everything went wrong at work? Faith, and I take time and study scriptures, and I do other things. Everybody needs that. What do you do to rejuvenate? I read a lot of leadership books, Colin Powell, John Maxwell, a couple favorites, Stephen Covey I've liked, and there are a lot of other people for internal, personal. So it's good to read all those. That's like your ongoing education. I encourage that. That's what gets you through those. But my real measurement of success is really my ability, when I leave somewhere, it's better than when I came.
That's great. Good. And you're happy.
Happy, smiling, right? I can sleep at night.
Yeah.
Well,
Here's
some
a
of my
question,
job.
yeah, here's a
ahead.
question maybe from one of our younger listeners. I want to be a leader in corporate America one day. What can I do now as a student to help position me? What do you look for in the applicants you hire or agree to mentor?
Great question. There is, leaders can be taught. You can develop a leader, but they got to be ambitious, and they got to be wanting to do it. A leader influences other people, and the measurement of a true leader is their ability to influence people outside of their direct responsibility. So somebody that doesn't have to listen to me because they don't report to me, when I'm able to influence that, that's a better demonstration of my leadership. Some people that work for you, they got no choice. So they're doing it because they want their job. So developing what are leadership skills, your ability to articulate a vision, your ability to see what we really need to accomplish, and your ability to delegate. You don't have to control everything. So there's skills that you need to read about, learn about, apply them, and practice them. Every leader grows through experiences. So don't be afraid to make a mistake. Life is about making mistakes. So create a culture within yourself and the groups that you lead that it's okay to make mistakes. Create a safe environment. And when you have that, like FedEx, hey, plane's got to fly. There's zero tolerance. Okay, that's not where we play. That's not where we make mistakes. We make sure anything we change, anything we do in there has a known outcome. When we're dealing with unknown, Let's go play over here. So you create your sandboxes of life and practice and lead. So go coach a softball team, go coach a soccer team. You want to learn patience? Go coach a bunch of 5-year-olds playing soccer. Okay. You do things to develop your leadership skills.
Yeah. Great. Now, I know that we've only got about 5 minutes left,
Okay.
we don't have to delve deep in this, but I got really interested in something from your LinkedIn page on virtual workplace effectiveness, and I'm sure part of the offshot with that was from COVID and how
Right.
that's driving things. Can you kind of throw a little bit of that in, and then I just want you to kind of finish with your final thoughts. We've
Yeah.
got 5 minutes.
Okay. I think everybody's been forced with COVID to really determine, did our business continuity plan really exist? I mean, are we able now to work outside the business environment? A manager, how good are they? They're learning right now because everybody's been thrown into this virtual situation where you can't walk over and see the inbox shrink. You can't touch things anymore. You're having to really lean heavy into your management skills. So at a high level, we have learned that we can manage virtually much more than we thought. However, there's a lot more that should never be virtual. That the most productive is sitting in a room together face to face on a whiteboard. And don't mix those up. And so what you have to learn as an individual, if you're in charge of productivity, and you have to get it from a group of people virtual, you have to adapt. You have to really understand. So getting more connected more throughout the day virtually. So your 5-minute, 10-minute stand-ups in the morning, a check-in at lunch, check-in at the end of the day cannot be perceived as I don't trust you. So that's why we're talking. It should be more of an engagement and a sharing of information so both of us can progress during the next 3 or 4 hours. And then we'll check again and we'll be able to share more information. So but this has to be real. You and me here, it has to be a real connection. But there are leaders who can lead some of their work virtually now, but they have to have certain metrics in place so they know where to put their focus.
Right
It's a
now,
whole 2-hour discussion, but
no, it is a 2 hour, but they should go on your LinkedIn and maybe connect with you
you know
after.
what? And I'll just tell the group, I mean, anybody that, shoot me a note. I'm more than happy to follow up. Usually I can get back to people within a week, so.
Mary, it seems to me that would that component also be something that could be in that college source arena? Because I know that a lot of our younger folks out there are very tech savvy and can pull that in, but what they're lacking, and I that's not maybe the wrong word, but the physical back and forth and networking.
I would say it's what it is. It's a maturity. Okay. And the answer is different for every group. If there's a group of people that have to work on an objective and create something or do this objective in this time frame, the maturity of the group as a whole determines how I can do that. Some groups, very little maturity. That means you got to have them face to face and they have to get matured first. In fact, there's a really good book that I love, 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, Pat Lencioni. I can shoot you a note if you don't have it, but that's very elementary. It tells you the basic things, bottom level trust. It kind of works through this pyramid. But everybody will try to answer that question, but every team is at a different level of maturity. And if you literally have a dysfunctional team, I don't care how great a leader you are, you're going to fail whether it's virtual or on site. You'll lose both ways. So the key is you got to be able to assess your current baseline of where your team is. Now you tactically want to grow and improve, strengthen them, and then you can lean into that maturity to solve anything, whether you're virtual or together.
Gary, I can't believe that we did not get to all of our questions. That's a first for me, but I do want to give you enough time to just give us your last thoughts.
Sure. Let me just say, I've loved my journey. It's been great. And I think back at being at college, the great unknown, a lot of uncertainty. And I realize in today's environment, there's even more pressure on our graduates. The uncertainty, don't let fear drive. There is so much greatness that it's out there, and there's so much that needs to be done to solve new business problems. It's the same approach. The technology is totally different. In fact, right here in my iPhone, this is powerful. We used to have rooms of equipment that wasn't as powerful as what I got in my hand. The technology goes and comes, it changes. But your ability to innovate, and innovate doesn't mean you got to think of new things. It means your ability to see things differently, take two things that people were using differently and bring it together, and now it solves a new process. I would be ambitious, be excited about what lies ahead. Don't get all hung up on the scary stuff that you hear from news sometimes. In fact, you listen to some of that, you feel like you're going to quit, give up. That's not who you are. That's not why you went to school. You went to school, get a degree. You've demonstrated your ability to learn. You got it within you. Just don't quit. Don't give up. Keep pressing forward. Like I said, that first computer job I wanted, I was typing. It was a typewriter. It was a memory typewriter. So at the end of the day, hey, I was 60 words a minute, the fastest 120. I took home the book. I studied it. I came back the next morning early, programmed it. I was typing faster than the 120 word per minute person. But I didn't type any faster. It's just I used the machine. I leaned into what it had. Same approach with anything. Be wise, enjoy life, be a team player, keep that work-life balance, but always be willing to work hard. And I would add integrity. Don't get caught up in the dishonest stuff. There's too much out there. Some people think that cutting corners is the right way to get where you need. Don't do it. We're all about integrity. That's why you go to college, to learn integrity, and that is the right way to do it. And enjoy what you're doing. Be happy.
Gary, we're at the end of our time, and I want to thank you very much. We'll give you more information, listeners. We're going to turn it back over to Noemi, and she'll let you know how to do that.
Thank you. Been a pleasure.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you, Lucia, for a great conversation. And again, if anyone wants to follow Gary on LinkedIn, we encourage you to do so. And if you would like to connect with him, send us an email. And maybe, Gary, are you okay if they send us an email and we could pass them on to you?
Sure.
Do it over email? Okay. So we're happy to do that as well. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. As a reminder, follow us on social media so you can learn about future chats like this. And this will be recorded and it will be up on our YouTube in a couple of days. So thank you so much and have a great day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.